well, the costly cleanup right now after tornadoes blow through the South and the Midwest. Experts are predicting more dangerous storms ahead. Now, could that be a dangerous forecast for our markets as well? Good morning, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto. Let's get the bottom line from all my buddies, including Charles Payne and Adam Lashinsky and David Nelson, along with Pat Powell and Peter Schiff. Tracy Burns will be back next week. She flew on an American plane and hasn't been heard from since. Actually true, but we'll tell you about that next week. Well, Peter, despite a rough Friday, stocks are still up this young spring. You afraid all the catastrophic weather is going to knock them down all over again, or what?
Well, they're going down regardless of the weather. But, you know, with a nation with nothing saved for a rainy day, you know, we have to hope for perpetual sunshine. The last thing we need is to have to deal with the costs of trying to repair damages from natural disasters. And, you know, there's a lot of people that espouse the broken window theory of economics. They say, well, a natural disaster is good for the country because we have to repair what's been damaged. But all that does is take resources away from creating new wealth, and simply we have to use it to replace what was lost.
What do you think of that, Charles?
I disagree. I mean, whoever's replacing the window...
Have you ever agreed with Peter?
We agreed on something once. I forgot what it was.
Right. Go ahead.
You know, but the reality is that, okay, if someone replaces a window, they get paid for it. The manufacturer of the window gets paid for it. You know, whoever drove the window panes to the site get paid for it. The stock market doesn't react to natural disasters and hurricanes the same way it would for, say, 9/11, because it is seen as an act of God. So taking away all of that, I mean, Katrina's a prime example. Obviously, we had that little bit of a bump, but the Dow went from 9,600 to 14,000 in 2 years.
Well, I think we should take a big step back here, Neil. First of all, I'll make two predictions. The first one is that the experts will not be right on whatever they expertly predict for the hurricane season. You know,
well, you're right about that.
They say 12 to 15. You know, maybe it'll be 18, and
I'm saying 2 and some
maybe
drizzle.
It'll be 2. Yeah, exactly. But here's my second prediction: if there's any inclement weather this summer, there will be many public company CEOs who will get on their earnings calls and say, the weather did in our quarter, that's why we didn't perform well. Of course, that's rubbish, but that's exactly the way it works. It will, if they have a bad quarter, it'll hurt their stocks. It's almost never because of the weather.
What do you make of that, Pat?
You know what? I think he's right. I think our economy and our markets weather these storms all the time. Whether you look at Camille in '69 or Andrew in '92 or Katrina, despite the economic chaos that seemed to have been caused by Katrina, when you look at the market, and I was a little more myopic when I looked at the market.
Hey. Watch your kind of words you're using.
You put Adam next to her, look what happened.
Myopic.
Katrina was from the 23rd of August through the 30th. On the 22nd, the Dow closed at 10,569. A month after Katrina was over, it closed at 10,568. It lost a point.
Here's where I'll try to distinguish here, and that is, Dave, that we are seeing certainly more of these storms. Now, whether the Hurricane Center, whoever made these predictions for a gazillion
but the
storms
problem
is right.
again is...
I will get you, Peter, sorry. Do you think that if we have a lot of them, as we have already with the tornadoes, that this does get to be something, hey, this is much, much bigger than we appreciate?
I have to agree with that. Look, Peter's over the top for sure, as he always is. But we don't want to go past the tipping point. Look, we're struggling at best to deal with an economic event of my career. And you have a weak consumer. GE's numbers yesterday were horrific. Retailers' numbers last week. Anything that slows down the recovery is just going to exacerbate an already bad situation.
All right. Now, Peter, the argument could be, as Charles touched on, that all of this destruction means construction down the road, and that is good for the economy and good for the people affected in those areas.
Well, not at all, because we're replacing assets that we used to have. But you have to remember, we don't even have the money saved. We have to borrow it from the Saudis or the Chinese. And in Charles's example, sure, if you have to write a check to the guy that replaces your window, that means you don't have money maybe to buy a new suit. So now your tailor goes without money. You know, if you think that you can create economic wealth by breaking windows, then go smash all the windows.
I don't know.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Or maybe you're the guy who was out of a job who actually is a construction worker.
But it puts somebody else out of a job.
It's a positive, Charles. How do you turn it into a positive?
Well, I'm saying the stock market's turning into a positive. Not me, it's historic.
I know, it's not. Yesterday to me.
You can go from, well, one day we're talking about. Listen, you could look at even take wars, for example, Pearl Harbor, 9/11.
They don't help the economy.
Of course they do.
No, they don't. That's nonsense,
They're normal.
Charles.
They're absolutely normal.
But
we
they
get rain
cost
every
money.
year.
Well,
we get
the fact
storms
is,
every
Pat,
year.
I actually did a little research for the show, unlike prior shows, and this is a record tornado season. In fact, the tornado damage we've had thus far is apparently worse than the last 3 years combined. I don't know how truthful that is, but that's what I've heard. So if you argue we've seen more tornadoes, more natural-type disasters, on top of, as Adam said, this forecast for a bad hurricane season, I agree, you have to, with a grain of salt. Is that problematic?
Well, it could be problematic, but I want to dispute with you a little bit, if you don't mind.
I'm the host.
Oh, okay.
Charles is fine. Adam, open season.
You may be right about the tornadoes. You notice I'm ignoring you. You may be right about the tornadoes, but I checked with NOAA, and NOAA is the one.
The Ark guy?
Yes, and NOAA is the one who follows the weather, and they basically say that there's absolutely no discernible pattern or no discernible change in the amount of storms that hit land in the last 100 years.
Let's just, Neil, let's just try to apply some common sense to this. If it's a bad season and we are in the situation that we're in, and I'm worried about agreeing too much with Hurricane Peter over there, but it's not good. We have a lot.
Hurricane Peter's been right.
correct.
We have a lot of negative forces in the economy right now. If we had a worse than average storm season, it's difficult to argue that would help just about anyone. The key difference is that the markets, like people, are adaptable. So markets adapt. Now, I'm not agreeing with your point about creative destruction necessarily, but if one part of the country is hit, another part of the country typically picks up the slack.
Adam, don't you think that the market's looking ahead and been feeling good recently up until yesterday, looking ahead thinking that maybe the news is so bad that it's got to get better from here. But you know what? Sometimes the market looks ahead and sees a mirage. And 6 months later, investors are left drinking the sand, and that may be what we're looking at right now.
That's a trader mentality.
Were you in the movie Ishtar?
No, it's not a trader mentality. This is a serious
I didn't even say the word
economic event.
mentality. No. I'm talking about trying to determine what impact a hurricane season would have.
I agree with you, but I think that was a little off topic. But listen, you drive up to FDR, you're going to see 2 Yankee stadiums. One is going to be deliberately torn down by man. It could have been torn down by nature. It's called progress. It's called creative destruction.
All right. You know what? You're sitting nearer to them this week. And you're scaring me.
But they have a security guard right here.
They do. And he will deal with you. All right, we're going to take a quick break.